she's a little bit more relaxed, as I've been here for most of this session. But normally she would be barking and probably quite animated. So what we could do is we can have we can do a couple things. I'm going to talk about a whole bunch of, I'm sorry, this is Sam, and these are some tips and suggestions I'm going to show you to help a dog that's fearful or not a fan of having new people come over to the house. So the first thing, when we come in the door, it's very rude to come in and just start walking in. So ideally, you'd like to have your guest stay here, let the dog sniff, and wait for the dog to move away before the person comes in. Now, what I did, we actually had Loki, her roommate here, and he was just showing me some signs he wasn't fully comfortable. So I opened the door just a crack, and there's a crack this much, and I put my knee there to let the dog sniff my knee. You want to do it small enough where the dog can't really get its mouth, really for protection, so you can close the door if you need to. And you want the dog should meet by scent, so you want the dog to meet by smelling the person. Now, this is if the person comes in and you can't go for a walk first. The ideal situation would be before a guest comes over, they call or text you, you have Sam on a leash out in front. Outside is a lot more distractions, which helps, but also it's more open, so the dog doesn't feel so confined and cornered. A lot of times what I do with clients with dogs like this is we walk them around the block. And so we walk maybe with the guardian here, her guardian, then Sam, and then the guest over here. Now, if she's lunging at the guest, then have the guest farther away. And what you're going to do is you're going to walk, and I'm going to do it down so you can see it. So the guest is over here. You're walking parallel, but the guest is getting closer and closer. But keep on increasing the distance, and the guest might have to be off across the street to begin with. But eventually, she gets comfortable. Dogs get their things by literally moving forward. So if you incorporate a walk, that can really help. Now, I'm just realizing that I'm standing in front of a light source. I'm probably going to be all backlit for that, so let me close this. Okay, so when we go on the walk, we want to have the guardian walk halfway down the walk, and then at some point, if the dog feels nice and relaxed, hand the leash to the guest and have the guest walking. Eventually, we'd like to have the guest just come over and take the dog and walk maybe 4 or 5 houses down, turn around and come back while the humans go inside. So that way the dog gets to have some personal interaction with the guest, independent of its guardians, because I think in her case, she thinks she needs to protect her guardians. So that will help eliminate that, and then they have a bonding experience. Now, I have high-value training treats. You can use one of these little things so you can have the treats in here. What I would do is, what I did with Loki, I opened it and let him sniff me. As soon as he walked away, I tossed a treat in there. He licked it up. Now, careful, there's not a lot of stuff so it gets caught. And then the idea is she gets a treat, and then when the person wants to come in, I would have them roll a treat several feet away, and then they can open the door and step right inside while she's a little bit further away. We don't want to spook her, but we want to get her to move away so she feels a little bit more comfortable. This is a very confined area, and that can amplify things. Also, the dogs are usually excited when people come home. I've showed the guardians another technique to help the dogs learn to stop jumping up and settling down. And you want to do those things in concert so the dogs are nice and calm when guests come home, because now the humans don't pet me when I'm excited, they only pet me when I'm calm. The dog will start being calm across the board. Okay, so once they come in, I'm going to have you go ahead and shift, and Dad's going to go ahead and walk back. And what I would do is I would hand the guest like a handful of treats. Now, as long as she's not a nipper, if she's nipping at people's feet, you don't want to do this technique for you. At home, if you're watching, you've got a dog that nips. But if she's nice and calm like she is now, what we're going to do is have the guest come in, and as they come in, they're going to drop a treat. After you do this enough, she'll understand, and she'll start looking for it. Take another step, and I drop another treat. Drop another treat. Another treat, another treat. And then the person should sit down. Now for dogs, they get over things like I said by literally moving forward, and they also learn through association. So we want the dog to assume when a new person comes over, they're polite, they wait for me to sniff them at the door, then when they come in, treats fall from the sky. I kind of like it when guests come over because these are delicious treats. I never get any of these. I'm going to have you come and stand over here if you could so we don't have the windows behind me. I'm going to show you a technique. Now, one of the things I noticed with her is she is what we call eye contact dominant. So the stranger looks her in the eye, she started growling. And she's giving me a little bit of a stare right now. She's licking her lips, which is a sign of stress. So if you see the dog licking its lips or staring intently, especially with a lowered head, she kind of twitches her nostril or her whole snout. It's the beginning of baring teeth. That's a warning as well. Turning the head to the side and yawning could also be a calming signal or a warning. Moving around really fast or freezing, breathing heavy or holding their breath, all those things are signals of the dog being under stress or a little bit not happy with the situation. So when the person comes in, when they're walking there, if possible, they can walk like, not slow motion, but I like to say a fluid walk, almost like you're walking in water. You can't move as fast. That'll help the dog feel a little more comfortable. Now in this, to end this, I'm going to show you what I call a focus exercise. And you're going to have to see if you can get that one. Yep, luckily her head is small enough that you can get it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put her to sit. Now she doesn't like direct eye contact from strangers, so I would have your guest ignore her unless they're doing this exercise. And I did this exercise probably maybe 10 or 15 treats, and that seemed to do the trick for her. Now the guest should also not try to talk to her, pet her, or look at her. The more that we try to engage with the dog when the dog's not comfortable with us, the more that we're going to scare them or think that we'll reinforce what they think. I'm a right-handed person, so I'm going to hold one treat between my thumb and forefinger like this. I'm going to have the rest of the treats in my offhand. I want my knees shoulder width apart, and I want to be facing the dog. Now again, when you first start off with her, she's eye contact dominant, so tell them not to look at her. Then we're going to put our hands down here. I want my hands to look uniform. They're going to look like fists. Now the dog's going to go straight to where the smell is and try to take the treat. So I'm waiting for her. Now I'm looking at her. As soon as she looks up at me in the face, then I'm going to raise the treat to my nose, and then I'm going to deliver it straight to her mouth. I want her to have a positive association of looking at someone in the face. Focus. And I say the word focus every time it goes in her mouth. Then I immediately reload so she knows we're still playing the game. But what we should see is her start looking at me faster and faster. Focus. Don't do anything to entice her to come. Right there, you want to do it. Well, we need to have you sideways. That's going to be a better camera presence. But the idea is only to reward her when she looks up on her own volition, not because we influence her. Focus. She does not have to stay and sit. I like them to be a sit, but they don't have to sit. But the idea is we want the treat close enough where she's going to be attracted to it, and these have a really strong aroma. And again, I'm watching her eyes. Focus. Now, I want to do, at first the movements are 1 second each movement. I'll show you on this one. I'll count it out. 1 second, 1 second. Focus. And we're always saying the command word after the treat goes in the dog's mouth. I don't know why I touched my nose there. Now, after a while, you're going to elongate it. 1 second. "20 seconds. Focus. Always say the word after it goes in her mouth. Now, I don't want to go from 1 second to 20 seconds. When you do this, all 12 treats should be 1 second, 1 second for your guest. We're going to make it easy as possible. What we're helping the dog do, and when the guest is doing this, they should be, when they look up, they should say the dog's eyes and the treat all at the same time as they're delivering. Focus. So when we do this, the guest would do 1 second, 1 second for all 12 treats. And then at that point, they can like toss the treat off to the side like that, and then just kind of sit back. Now the family had ordered new furniture, so they don't normally have this outlet. Mom would probably be upset if I didn't mention that. So have the guest sitting down. Sitting is less threatening. Also for her, she's going to get startled if they move unexpectedly. Even a cough or something might cause her to bark and lunge at them. Lunging towards them but stopping is not what we like, but that's okay. We don't want to correct the dog for that. So if the person does want to get up, what they would want to do is maybe make a cough or get somebody to get the dog to look at her. If I wanted to get up right now, well, I would have not done that poor job of the toss. So I'm going to toss the treat a little bit further away, gets her to move away. I can stand up, and I'm going to stand and wait for her to see me. Then I can move around subtly, and if possible, if they have some treats, they drop the treats. Now, I'm not saying the guests are going to drop treats everywhere you go. After a while, she'll warm up to the guest, and then she'll start to catch on that when a guest comes over, I get a walk, treats fall from the sky, and if I look at the guest in the face, I also get more treats. This helps. I usually do this exercise. This is the first time I've done it in this capacity, but it works really well for it. Usually I want to give the family members the ability to redirect the dog's attention. Usually the dog's like looking down the street, sees another dog and about to ready to bark, and you say, focus, the dog looks up at you, and then you deliver the treat. But in this case, because she's eye contact dominant, she was abused, she's a rescue dog, we don't know what happened in the past, but we want to understand that looking at the human is actually not a challenge when the human looks in the face. It means that a treat is coming. So first, now if you guys as family members want to try it, you can do this at home, and most of the time when I tell clients, I tell them, I want you to get to the point where you can go 15 seconds on that second movement within about 7 days. So that means everybody's practicing this. We have 4 people in the house, so we're practicing, each person practices once a day with her. Maybe one person does 1 second, 1 second. Next person does 1 second, 2 seconds for all 12 treats in the second movement only. First movement is always 1 second. But eventually we get to the point where you can keep the dog's gaze for up to 15 seconds, and the dog is like, I'm happy to look at you because it means I'm getting a treat. Then later on, the guest looks at the dog like this, or before when I did this was a growl and burying the teeth and all that. Now I can do it. Ears aren't flipping back, and I have no licking of the tongue. Focus. Because we created what we call a conditional emotional response. Looking at the human means the treat's going to be delivered. All right, sit. This is Sam. These are some tips and tricks that you can use if you have a dog that's fearful about meeting new people.